Hi y'all, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I'm so excited because I'm doing a voiceover for the first time, but I'll be showing you how I did the feed in the front and then bundles in the back hairstyle. I'm starting off with freshly washed hair, have my hair a bit blown out. It's not as straight as it could be, but it's still workable and we're gonna work with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and part off my hair. I'm not making it like equal because I want more of my hair braided up and with the bundle so that it just gives a fuller look. So once you do that, it should look a little something like this. Like I said, there is more in the back that I want it to be braided up and under the bundles. I like to do an anchor braid at the back only because I don't want any of my hair getting pulled as I'm corn rolling it, and the back tends to be a little bit more sensitive, so that's why I'm doing that back braid. And now I'm gonna go ahead and do my cornrows going straight down. I keep them kind of chunky. The parting isn't the neatest, but it's still going to get the job done. So I think that's also another hint for everybody. Like when you're doing this type of hairstyle, no one's gonna see your cornrows underneath. You want it to make sense, of course, but it doesn't have to be, you know, super tiny or anything. I wanted to keep mine a little chunkier just to save on time. And this is kind of what it looks like when I am pretty much done with it. I braided the ends of the braids together and then I sewed everything down, which you'll probably see a little bit later, but it just helped everything so that it was nice and flat. And when it was time for me to go in with the bundles, it just made the process even easier. So this is me just kind of finishing up with the sewing down process before I went ahead and started to work on the front of my hair and start those feed-ins. So once I was done with the cornrows, it looked a little bit like this, not too shabby. And I didn't even use a mirror in the back to see how the parting was doing. I was just kind of feeling around to see if it was feeling right at least. So now for the front, I decided that I wanted to do a knotless braid on the side versus going straight in with the cornrow. So I'm just going ahead and parting that in, and I'll have another video with a more detailed version on how to do knotless braids and just feeding in some hair. But as you can see, I started it off pretty small and then I just fed in those small pieces of hair. To start my knotless braids, I like to braid it down about 4 times with my own natural hair before I start feeding in hair. So this is me just kind of doing that process. I fed it in a couple of times till it got to the size that I want. But like I mentioned, I'm going to have a nice detailed video just really walking you all through this so you can also do knotless braids. Now we're going into the whole feed-in process. So I start with my natural hair and I braid down a couple of times before I start to add some hair in. So it is kind of similar in terms of concept. With knotless braids, you are feeding in small pieces of hair at a time. Instead of braiding like a singular braid, I'm braiding on my scalp, of course, as you can see, and I'm just feeding in a couple of pieces at a time because you want to make sure the pieces are pretty small because you don't want it to be bulky. You want it to be a gradual increase. So this is me just adding those small pieces. Once you're happy with the size that your braid is in, you can go ahead and just start braiding it down like I am doing here. I'm probably going to also add a little bit of hair as I'm going down just to make sure it's like the thickness that I want. But yeah, this is a bit of the process when it comes to feed in. It's not too hard, but once you kind of get the hang of it, it gets easier. I was honestly just kind of making things up along the way. I didn't have a set design in mind, so that's why I decided to kind of do this type of parting. And honestly, it paid off in the end because I think the look really came together. So I'm doing another feed in braid right here, and like we talked about earlier, you just feed in a small piece at a time till you get to the desired size that you want.
Try to travel the world and go to every state. Trust in God and you gon' be great. Number one goal is keep the whole family straight. Lord forgive me trying to make it to them heaven gates. At the end of the day I wanna be a star. From my last name they gon' know who we are. Chase your dreams, go 100 miles, you gotta go far. Chase your dreams, go 100 miles, you gotta go far. I just wanna take it.
So I'm not going to braid the braid all the way down because I still want to use some perm rods to curl the ends. But this is what it looked like when I was finally done. This was a process, but it came out very cute, very happy. And I'm going to go ahead and sew in my bundles. These bundles, I got them from the beauty supply store. I'm not exactly sure of the name right now, but I will leave it in the description box once I find it. So if you want to get the same bundles, you can. And in the pack, it came with 3, and I ended up only using 2 of the bundles. I used the 22 and the 18, and it was enough for the whole back of my head, and it was pretty full. So I was very happy about that. I did have to cut the tracks at certain points just to make sure that it was laying correctly because I didn't want it to lay in a way where you can see my cornrows. So I had to be a bit strategic about that.
Tell you when I'm done, I'm just having fun.
One tip I will give is that when you're sewing in your bundles, try to do it in a U shape just to make sure it's covering everything it needs to cover and it's laying the way you want it to. But once you're done sewing everything down, I went ahead and took my perm rods. I used my smaller ones because I wanted a tighter curl, and I went ahead and just wrapped it around the perm rod so that I can dip it in hot water.
I just run it up, you just know I'm swerving on the highway. I'm just making hits, you just know I make it, do it my way. On this road, yeah, I'm solo, yeah, I don't need no hand. I only fear God, I don't fear no man. Let's go across the world, take a trip to Japan. I'm just getting started, yeah, we just began.
So once you're done wrapping everything around the perm rods, you're going to go ahead and take your hot water and dip it inside. I like to let it sit there for a couple of seconds before I take it out and dab it and dry it with a towel. So after you dipped everything in a hot water, I just like to kind of go over it with a towel some more just to make sure it's not dripping wet when I unravel it. And as you can see, the curls came out really good. It's the tightness that I wanted to match the curl pattern of the bundles that I have, so that's good. was done just separating my curls, I went ahead and just cut off the excess because I wanted it to line up nicely with my bundles. So as you can see, I just cut off those little longer pieces so that everything was matching up really good. So I'm really happy with how the whole hairstyle turned out. I will say my only mistake is the fact that my braiding hair was a little bit darker than my bundles, because the braiding hair is in the color 1, then the bundles are in the color 1B. But aside from that, this is still one of my favorite hairstyles to date. And thank you so much for tuning in, y'all, and I will catch you next time.